Hi everyone. Today I will share a bit about my role and experience in the Supported by Nature project from a student's perspective. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join you live today, but I wanted to introduce myself and tell you about my role as student assistant through this video. So, my name is Nelli Koukka. I'm almost 23 years old and I study energy and environmental engineering at Turku University of Applied Sciences, and I specialize in water and environmental technology. Right now, I'm working as a student assistant in the Water and Environmental Protection Research Group. And before jumping into what I have done, I'll tell you how all this got started. So, I joined the research group because I felt like my courses in school weren't giving me enough meaningful or hands on experience, and everything felt a bit surface level. So I wanted to get a real look at what project work could be like in action. And I heard about the research group and decided to send an application. I talked a bit about what kinds of topics I'm interested in, and that's how I got connected to the Supported by Nature project. So, now about the starting point. I started my internship in January 2024. In the beginning, I focused a lot on reading and collecting scientific articles about nature based solutions, multifunctional wetlands, and also bike factories. I also searched for existing wetland guides and gathered them for our team. Then I got to do also more practical work. I participated in mapping potential wetland sites, both inside and outside the biosphere area. I also did some checking about who owned these lands, and I joined site visits to help evaluate which places could become actual wetland locations later on. During spring and overall during my time in this project, I have joined several stakeholder events. Some were for local people near the wetland sites, and some were larger workshops like the Nature Based Solutions in Archipelago Sea event that we held. One of my main responsibilities was to design the observation research framework. So I studied the idea of observation and created a structured template that we could use in the multiple events to collect feedback and insights. I also helped organize the events, from creating feedback surveys to other things needed for setting up the event. In the spring, I also did things like helping to install sensors in the field. And now that I remember, just to mention, I might forget to bring up some things I've done. So this might not cover everything, so just to let you know. One of the most memorable experiences for me was in May when I got to join wetland field trip with high schoolers. I created dragonfly species cards to help them learn, and during the day I helped the students identify dragonflies as part of that day. It was really fun and hands-on, and I actually learned a lot about dragonflies myself along the way when making the species cards. After that event, I had completed my internship at the end of May. In summer, I had a retail job back in another city and I was away from Turku, but I continued working for the project through project studies. I wrote a report on ocean literacy, looking at what it means, how it's implemented globally in schools and research institutions, and I gave some real life examples, including the Support by Nature project. And I also reflected on how I see the ocean literacy developing in the future. So, now about becoming a student assistant. After the summer, I officially became a student assistant after completing 270 hours of internship. Unfortunately, I was quite busy with school in autumn, but the Supported by Nature team was super flexible and supportive when combining the school and work. They didn't want me to work over my limits with the workload. In autumn, I work on things like making surveys, contacting landowners, analyzing sea level data, and compiling a large event summary report, which included event descriptions, programs, notes, feedback, and observational analysis from all the events we have held. So, pretty much gathering all the information we have from the events into one big report. In this spring, our team did an interview with Pipsa Kaunisto from ELY for our upcoming virtual tour. And in Finland, ELY stands for the Center for Economic Development, Transport and the Environment. And sorry for the interrupt, our neighbor's dog is barking outside, so sorry if you can hear it on the video. But let's get back to this presentation. I helped edit the interview, which I really enjoyed, and I realized that these kinds of creative work is something I do pretty effortlessly. And I've also done along this time in the project a couple of social media posts for Instagram and LinkedIn. And in this spring I also created more dragonfly species cards for the future. And spring has also been a time when I've been heavily involved in another major project, in addition to Supported by Nature, which has taken up a lot of time. So that might be reflected in the number of tasks I've completed, as the other project is nearing its final stages. So what's next for me? Now that I'm nearing the end of my studies, I've started thinking more seriously about my thesis. There have been other interesting suggestions from different projects, but for me, Supported by Nature feels like the right choice because it's a project I've really connected with, and I've learned so much through working here, and it feels natural continuing building on that. At the moment, I'm considering focusing my thesis on the Bratnes wetland site, but I'm still narrowing down the exact focus. It's a nice feeling to approach the final part of my studies with something that already feels familiar and meaningful. Now this presentation is coming to an end, and I'd like to share a few reflections. Supported by Nature has really been a meaningful part of my studies, and I've learned so much about fieldwork, stakeholders, events, and overall how projects work in real life. I'm especially grateful for the supportive and flexible team because they've made it easy to combine school with project work, and I've always felt like I've been trusted and included. And I love to continue working with Supported by Nature through my thesis. And that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, since this is a video and when you're watching this, I'm actually taking an exam, and that's why I can't attend live. So I won't be able to answer any questions, but if anything comes up, maybe someone from our team who's present can help. But thank you so much again for listening, and have a nice day. Bye bye.